Hello everyone, so this guy right here to my right, black shirt, black pants, Will Power. This is husband to my left. Both of them adopted this beautiful baby girl. Will Power is getting backlash because he done made a video with this baby girl asking the black community what hair product can he use on the baby girl hair. Remind you guys she just 7 weeks old. You really can't do nothing to her hair. Only thing you can do is wash her hair, grease it, and put some oil in it. So I'm gonna let you all see the video. Let me know in the comment section what you all think. Also, I to add the extra clip because someone went into their background and found out some stuff. I'm not judging, he's not judging, so I'm gonna let you all watch the video.
I'm hoping to get this TikTok over to Black TikTok. Any Black parents, we have adopted a Black baby. Her name is Zoe, and I don't know what to do for her hair. I have this little brush. I have something from Shea Moisture. I really don't know what to use, so please, any Black parents or anyone who knows what to do with Black children's hair, please help me in the comments. Thank you.
Why do adoptive parents think it's okay to take a womb wet baby and cosplay with them? Literally womb wet. So you guys have seen this video, the one with the dad asking the Black community for help with his Black daughter, that he emphasized the Black like 9 times on that video. He then said he was going to Black talk into the internet because he didn't have anywhere else to turn to. He was just looking for information. And after a little bit of investigation, my question is, why didn't you ask that mother, the one who gave birth to your daughter Zoe? You were in her hospital room for literally 5 days. Why didn't you ask her about her Black daughter's hair when she was literally with you? Oh, you were too busy having photo ops in the operation room while she was literally pushing her baby out. And while your husband was cutting the umbilical cord, you were recording videos, and then you did skin to skin immediately after she was born, right next to her mother. I don't know who this mother is, but unlike you, I'm going to block her face to conceal her identity and for confidentiality, which you should have given her the honor on one of the most tremendous days of her life. And she's losing her child to you. Another thing I want to address is you said you didn't have enough time to prepare for this child because she was a last minute placement, saying that you only had 2 months to prepare. Which, can happen. But you had enough time to make memes of you being pregnant with your husband. That's weird. Also had enough time to become a parent content creator and try to do sponsored posts, but you didn't have enough time to even educate yourself on your daughter's Black hair. I really wanted to give you the benefit of the doubt that you were an adoptive parent that was doing this for the right reasons and not for content and not for clout or self-praise. But unfortunately, that's not what it's looking like. You paraded that baby out days after it was born, going to hotels, going to events with a fresh baby. And you clearly showed no concern for that birth mother, especially by showing her face on your public platforms. Now that Black mother has to see her daughter on Black Talk, because it went viral, and her face now on your social media platforms, which I'm sure people were going to start to share. I hope that you take this time, because adoption is permanent and you're in this permanent agreement. I hope you take the time to listen to transracial adoptees. I hope, for the benefit and safety of that child, I hope you do. Because what we've seen so far is exactly what we talk about. It's exactly what causes maternal separation trauma. Being ripped from your mother, womb wet, not even allowed to touch your mother, not even allowed to have your birth crawl with your mother, not even allowed to have the golden hour with your mother, and to be immediately placed on a stranger's chest does cause maternal separation trauma, and it does cause trauma for the child, and it's just simply unethical, especially when the mom's sitting right next to you. Please listen and learn and always shine your light. I stayed up majority of the night thinking about how I would make this video. So I'm going to preface with, I'm going to do my best to be trauma informed. I'm going to do my best to be child and family centered. And I'm going to do my best not to, I really don't want to shame anyone about addiction or criminal history. Because as y'all see, my PFP is my mugshot of when I was human trafficked. And so I do understand the criminal system and how it can affect people. So let's go. As you guys know, since yesterday, I've been covering the story of the white adoptive father with the Black daughter, and he has Black Talk for help. So I've already made videos about like him deleting the videos, there's such and everything else, right? My team and I did some research yesterday on his public platforms, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, and there was a lot of troubling things. Off the bat, the first thing I found troubling is that he and his partner were in the room when the delivery was being done, taking photos and videos of this birth mom, and I don't know if they got her consent or not, but she's in very exposing positions, and any mother would know, like when they're giving birth, they don't want to be in those type of photos and positions, especially on adoptive parents' platforms. And like I explained yesterday, the immediate skin-to-skin womb wet is an issue, and it causes maternal separation trauma. But after looking through his social media, there's so many red flags. The second red flag will be chokeable items, choking hazards. He's placed baby rings, as you see here, on the baby. There's also multiple videos of her wearing cardigans with small buttons that she should not be wearing. And the most concerning video or photo that I saw was the baby in their rocker, unsecured, sitting neck to chest. The reason they should never be in that position is because they could die from something called positional asphyxiation. Literally, they could suffocate. Because a baby's windpipe is the size of a flexi straw. And if it's bent, imagine a flexi straw being bent, there's nothing that can get through that straw. So if a baby's neck is to their chest, there's no way that their airway is actually correct and the baby is struggling to breathe. Another concerning thing I saw on his profile was that days after the baby was born, he had this baby outside doing public events. And right now, with COVID making its way back up and RSV, we should really be protecting the most vulnerable, which are infants and old people. But to take it a step further and to place this baby on public items outside that are 3 to 4 feet in the air and to take steps back to take a photo, that is child endangerment, if you ask me. I'm so sorry. Because at any moment that baby could roll, and we don't know what type of germs are on these surfaces. There's also photos of the baby improperly placed in car seats with large jackets that baby should not be placed in car seats with, as well as the baby being swaddled in a rocker unsecure, with a dog right next to the buttons to operate the rocker. But my number one biggest concern is how they legally adopted this child. In his original video, he said that the child was placed with him, which insinuated that this was a foster care situation. After my research, it's not looking like a foster care situation. In fact, I would pay a whole month's salary to say that this is not a foster care situation. In my opinion, this is a private adoption that no agency was involved in. And if there was an agency, this agency was corrupt as hell. Why do I say this? This is the part where I'm trying to be the most sensitive. After looking on Will's page, you will learn that he is a 10-year recovering addict from intravenous use, which is fantastic. Recovery is a lifelong process. I work with parents who are actively in recovery, and people with addictions can be great parents, especially if they have resources and they have a community. But just like a lot of people who struggle with addiction, there usually comes a criminal history. And unfortunately, on Will's page, on his Facebook page, he posted this photo showing Will how proud he was of his growth, which, we are all proud of. If you know anything about addiction, if you know anything about the criminal justice system, if you can get yourself out of those two things and make a great life for yourself, that is amazing. My question is, how did a convicted felon do a legal adoption in the state of Texas where you're not allowed to be a convicted felon and adopt in the state of Texas? Well, I believe that some of these policies are unfair. Absolutely. I believe, like I said, felons can make their lives better. They can be rehabilitated. People who struggle with addiction can get better and become amazing parents. But that's not the policy. The policy says no. And my biggest issue with this is whenever I talk about adoption, people say, well, the birth parents were just crackheads and convicts. So why do they deserve to raise their children? My question is, we know that children are removed because parents struggle with addictions. We also know that children are removed because parents are convicted felons. So how did we allow an adoptive parent who's a convicted felon and a recovering addict, how do we allow them to adopt a child that they clearly didn't do any research on top of all the other red flags? In 2024, I'm staying child and family centered. And the only thing I'm concerned about is the safety of the child. So Will, I'm asking you, what agency did you go through? And did they do a background check? And if they did, how were you approved? Let me know and always shine your light. Hey Light Shiners. So this video is going to be a recap of my investigation with Zoe and her adoptive fathers. I did get to speak to Will. He was the adoptive father who was brushing the hair. I spoke to him yesterday for about an hour on my live, and I did get confirmation of all of my questions that I had on my previous video that you guys just watched. So I'm going to go over those facts. I'm also going to answer some of the questions of how did this all even happen. So let's start with the facts. The first fact that I, as an adoptee and an adoptee advocate, want to make very clear that this was a legal private adoption. It is very unethical, but they did it the legal way. And because there isn't much governmental oversight, really no oversight with private adoption, as long as you have the money, you can get your product, which are babies. So let's start with the facts. The first fact is Will and his husband are both convicted felons. That's just the fact of the matter. I spoke to Will about this yesterday, but like I said in my previous video, most people who struggle with addiction also that coincides with a laundry list of convictions. And unfortunately, between him and his husband, there's over 100 charges, many of them felony charges, not all convictions, because I know convictions and charges are different, but they both have been convicted with felonies in the state of Texas. Now, out of all of those convictions and charges, none of them were child abuse related. None of them were sex crime related. But if we're sticking to the facts, there were violent felonies on there. And there are also many drug felonies on there. To be clear, we're just dealing with the facts. The second fact of this case is both of the adoptive fathers are recovering addicts, but they both have at least 10 years under their belt, okay? So that's just a fact. And we support people who struggle with addiction, and we know that rehabilitation can happen, but that's just the facts. Once again, we just cover the facts here. The third fact of the matter is, where did the Zoe come from? And this is the most upsetting. Zoe's mother is a 23-year-old former foster youth who already has 3 prior children, 2 in her care. One, I believe, is with a family member or a friend. I don't know if the third one got adopted out. I believe it's with a family member or a friend. This is something we see from foster youth all the time. More than 75% of women who will grow up in foster care system will be pregnant by the age of 19. And this is a statistic that I talk about regularly. So for the people saying, well, she just gave up her baby. This was a foster youth who was also failed by the system, right? And the system then convinced her to give up her child. It's generational trauma, y'all. And the last fact that I want to share before we get to answering some of the most common questions I saw was this done legally? And unfortunately, yes. So let's get to the questions. Now, I know y'all wondering right now, how the did he get approved for adoption? Well, after speaking to Will yesterday, he did tell me that he and his husband both knew pretty much that they couldn't go through the foster care or the public adoption systems, because foster care and the public adoption systems, they do have policies and procedures that prevent felons and people with previous drug addictions from being foster parents or adoptive parents through the public foster care system or public adoption. Now, the difference between public adoption and private adoption is public adoption has governmental oversight. Private adoption does not. Private adoption is just a private industry, a private adoption company, or a private adoption attorney. In this case, Will and his husband used a private adoption attorney who then hired an adoption social worker to look for a baby to adopt. Most of these babies that they look for to adopt are either in y'all's community, your churches, or sometimes they will go to private adoption agencies and pay a fee for some of their referrals. Yeah, you heard that right. Adoption agencies, you guys have seen the ads. Can you not take care of your baby? Do you want to offer your baby a better life? That's not foster care advertising to you. Those are private adoption agencies who then sell that baby to the highest bidder, whether that be an adoptive parent or a baby broker. They're called baby brokers. This attorney was a baby broker, and they just try to find their clients' babies. Well, Carlos, I thought that in the state of Texas, you said that you couldn't adopt and be a felon. I did, and you can't. Unless you go through a private adoption and you use a baby broker, because if you use a baby broker, that baby broker is the one who approves you, not the government. Remember, I said that private adoption has no governmental oversight. So meaning that if the baby broker just wants your money, right, they can just ignore your background, which many do. All they have to do is find a parent who they can coerce to give up that child, have that parent sign over for adoption, and then wait 6 to 12 months after the baby was born and then finalize the adoption. No background check. Now, Will did say that he and his husband did go through a home study and did go through a background check. But once again, these home studies and background checks are approved by the baby attorney, the adoption attorney, or the baby broker. So of course, they don't really, as long as you got the money, they don't really care and they will approve you. Oh, right. The last fact of this case is that I forgot to mention. Will has so far spent $7,000. He's probably going to spend anywhere between $3,000 to $5,000 more to get this adoption finalized. Myself and most other adoptees make content on how we can stop the private adoption system and why we are anti-adoption. You guys will ask us, why are you anti-adoption? Why are you anti-adoption? Because of cases just like this. This is a private adoption that allowed 2 convicted felons with violent charges to get their hands on a child. Now, they might be good people now, but we can't guarantee that for all people. And if we allow one set of felons to adopt a child, we open the door for all felons to adopt a child, right? And I know some felons can be good people, but a lot aren't, okay? I will be making more videos about how we can, as a Black community, protect our children. I believe that we need to create something like ICWA, which is the Indigenous Child Welfare Act, right? That Native children can only go to Native families. I believe that that should apply for Black children, Latino children, and Chinese children, all races of children. We should be placed with our culture first. So in closing, he did nothing illegal. It's unethical, but it's completely legal in the private adoption world. Everybody who's upset and asking what can we do, we can call Congress, we can call our state representatives, and we can get fucking pissed off about this is allowed to happen in our country. This is human trafficking. This is slavery. Adoption is slavery, especially private adoption. And for all the people saying call CPS, call CPS, call CPS, unfortunately, he hasn't committed any, he hasn't broken any laws. So you're gonna waste your time calling CPS. And when people are saying, let's save this baby, Zoe, at least he has addressed everything on the live. He said he's going to learn and do better, and he's going to actually listen to adoptees, take some more adoptive parent courses. So he said that he's acknowledged what he has done, and he's willing to learn and make a change. So there's hope for Zoe. Who don't have hope are the thousands of other adoptees that are adopted legally through private adoptions as transracial adoptees, as Black babies. They're the ones who need our help. Because not all of their parents are going to hop on TikTok and expose us. They're going to abuse us in their home silently, and no one will know, just like what happened to me. So if this case angered you at all, that you really need to get activated in the adoption reform and help us reform adoption so this can stop happening and we make more policies to protect children, especially the most marginalized children. Always shine your light.